All right, we're going to do it. We're going to have the gear conversation. We're going to do it right here, right now. I'm going to tell you my recommendations for gear that you should get for your classroom to make a music technology studio. To start getting students recording, playing, and creating their own music in a digital way. So, first things first is I would do an inventory of everything you have because you might have some things that would be super beneficial. So find out if you have microphones at school, if you have a PA that isn't being used. Scour that back closet and try to find old things. So like at my school, we had racks of these old keyboards that were super forgotten, and most of them were broken. I had to actually take them apart and fix them. If some of the notes on your keyboards don't work, take them apart, take out the keypads. I found that Expo dry erase spray really cleans those keypad things out and they can put them back. Otherwise, you have to buy new ones. Anyway, so what I did is we had these Korg X5 keyboards. I found out there was a huge aftermarket demand for these keyboards. I was able to sell about 18 of them for almost the exact same price that they were new. Now, they were like defunct, old, cruddy keyboards that would be really difficult to use in a modern MIDI lab, but I made a few grand. I had to talk to my admin. I put them up on eBay. I sold them. I had enough to get a good interface, to start my mic locker and all this stuff. So just find out what you have. So let's talk about dealing with what you have, depending on what your students, what their devices are. It's going to kind of, and depending on what your goal for your program is, that's kind of going to steer you in some directions. If you want students to be like making their own beats and playing their own music on a MIDI keyboard, then you're going to want to create the classroom situation that is going to help the most with that kind of thing. So you're going to want to create like single stations. But start with what you have. Let's say your students have Chromebooks. Chromebooks are great because Chromebooks allow you, they have keyboards on them. So you can play pretty much anything on a Chromebook using a DAW like Soundtrap or BandLab. So think about what you want. You don't have to have a grant writing thing, and you don't have to have all this approved by the admin to start your music technology class. Get the foot in the door by using what you have, because your admin and yourself and your students are going to see right away the benefits of being able to create your own music, of being able to reach that separate group of students that aren't in band, choir, or orchestra, that want to engage in music at a high level. Maybe they want to make beats, but they don't know how. If they have a keyboard, they could make beats. So if you have Chromebooks, that's the first thing. That's great. Or anything with a keyboard or anything. All right, so the first thing that I would actually buy is a good quality playback system for your room. Most students have only heard audio being played from their phone speakers or from their laptop speakers. Now, this is something you might not actually have to buy. This is something you might have already in your school. You might have a PA that you set up for like choir performances. Take that PA, set it up in your room. Use that with a mixer that you might not use except for 4 times a year. Set that up in your room. Use that as the playback device. Playing back music at a high level of fidelity is very impactful for students. Like listening to things and then having it sound good is something that a lot of our students don't have. One of the things that I do is I have my students I give them the option to buy headphones at the beginning of the year. I do a bulk order. Like I always buy my gear from Sweetwater Sound. I get it. I'm in Illinois. They're in Indiana. I get it in literally less than a day. I just bought an amp over here. I bought it on noon on Wednesday. I got it at 11 a.m. on Thursday. It's crazy. I didn't pay for any extra stuff, any extra shipping. But so like one of the things I do is I find a decent pair of headphones. Right now I'm on Sweetwater. I'm looking for a decent pair of headphones. Beautiful. These are awesome headphones. And $40. Email Sweetwater. Ask them like if I got 20 headphones, if I got 20 pairs of headphones, how much would it be per unit? The price is going to go down. So what you do is you put out like a letter to parents, get an order ready of headphones, put in the headphone order bulk, And then kids have headphones, and then they can plug them into their Chromebooks. They can be listening to music at a whole nother level. And now it's in vogue to have cool looking headphones on your head. So it kind of works out. They're getting like a fashion thing, but it's also super functional for a music tech class. So like the first thing is just playback. Headphones, you don't need to buy headphones for every student. If you can augment some of that purchase price, think about if every one of your music kids can have an awesome set of headphones. It'd be amazing. And then definitely that playback. So if you don't have a playback system, if you're looking for something that's good sounding, I wouldn't get a Bluetooth speaker. I would think longer term. Think about getting a mixer and a set of decent powered speakers. So there are a lot of different powered speakers out there. I like Presonus gear. You can get a couple of these Presonus 12-inch powered speakers. 10-inch ones are great. $500. So for $1,000, you have 2 speakers. You can start with just one of them. On the back of these speakers, so let's check it out. On the back of the speakers, you have, inputs for a microphone. You have a 3.5 millimeter jack for you can just plug the computer right into it. There's a lot you can do. So get 2 of these, and then you can get a mixer. You could plug your computer right into one of them, and then you can get kids hearing music right away and be like, oh my gosh. And the second thing I would do is to get a mixer. So I like to get, for students, I like the idea of an analog mixer so they can actually see channel strips and stuff. So this mixer by Presonus is great because it has 8 regular channels and it has some like extra channels here. And you can also plug this into your computer and it becomes an audio interface. So this is an excellent, option. Get some sort of mixer. So now you have playback, okay? Then even if students are typing on their Chromebook, and if they save the soundtrap file, you can play it back on the big speakers. And hearing their own compositions in like real life is killer. Okay. So the next thing I would do, if you're going for more of a performance-based production course, so that's like my production course, Production Through Performance, I would get a MIDI interface. Because, yes, typing keyboards are great, but you can't edit velocity in real time with a typing keyboard. Also, playing chords and melodies is kind of bogus using a typing keyboard. So I would get some sort of MIDI controller. Now, it's all about size. The reason why I like 49 key is it fits really well in small spaces. So it fits on my desk here. And you have a pretty good range of octaves. That's a 1, 2, 3, 4 octave range. It's kind of all you need. I can play drums here. When I play bass, I do have to make it go down the octave. So this is interface by IK Multimedia. It's called the iRig Keys IO49. The cool thing about this one is it's multi-platform. So it works with iOS, it works for PC, it works for Mac. It has different connectors that you can do. And it also has an audio interface. So I could plug a microphone into this, add phantom power, turn off phantom power, and it has an output and a headphone jack. So that's, this would be great. If you just wanted an all-in-one, this is great. They also make a 25 key, a 2-octave one. So let's check to see how much it is in Sweetwater Sound, because that's fun to do. If you've never been on a website like this, it's a dangerous place. It's a dangerous place because you can spend a little too much time on looking at gear. I remember there's so many hours I spent as a student looking at gear and tricking myself into thinking that I was getting better at music. But what I was doing is getting really, really good at looking at gear. So you can get the 25 key one for $170. You can get the 49 key one for $250. There's a demo for $249. There's also Nektar is, I've used, if people are going to ask brands, I don't have a brand of MIDI keyboard that doesn't have any flaw. Like every MIDI keyboard I've ever played has had some sort of flaw. I think the best thing to do is to buy one of one type and try it. and see what happens. So Nektar makes a bunch of inexpensive ones. They have a 49 key. I wouldn't get one with bells and whistles, because you know what's going to happen? They're going to get messed up. If you buy a bunch of ones with knobs and stuff, like juice is going to get spilled on them, and like Cheeto crumbs are going to get inside the knobs, and it doesn't work the same on different different DAWs and stuff. But the one I've really been liking is this this one, because of its price. Just bought a few of these because of COVID. This 49 key Nektar one, $80. It has a pretty decent feel. What you're gonna get, I mean, like with this kind of controller, what you're looking for is, you know, the velocity curve. Some velocity curves of really cheap MIDI interfaces is like non-existent, which is difficult to play like a dynamic drum part. But I mean, MIDI controllers can go from really cheap to very expensive. You know, Roland makes a good one. Akai makes one. There are ones with mini keys. I don't like using mini keys, but some people like using mini keys. So I would just try some. Not one is perfect, but if you can try some, get to know it. I like full-size keys because this is going to translate to a piano. I like at least 49 to 61. I think you don't have to do any more. On the teacher station, I have a Nektar with an 88 key. I actually have the old version of this one. Doesn't need hammer action. You know, I have a piano at home that has hammer action. It's great. I'm not a piano player. If you are a piano player and you need hammer action, then get one. But your students don't. So I think the second thing that you should buy, besides like a good playback device, is some sort of MIDI interface for your students to interact with the electronic music in a tactile way. The electronic instruments in a tactile way. So you are, you know, it's that bridge between the electronic or the analog and the digital. This is the bridge, and this is a great bridge. You know, these things are cool. These things are cool. I like these things. But if I'm going to learn a bridge tool, if I'm going to learn a way to interact with electronic music, why not learn something that also allows you to create music for different ensembles? That's my reasoning. So you can pretty much do anything with this that you could do with a pads interface, minus all the fancy like looping stuff, but you can have two. So this is what I would do. The next thing that I would get is a really good quality audio interface for the teacher station. Something that is going to be rock solid. I have a Universal Audio Apollo Twin. It has 2 channels of mic inputs, has a good headphone jack and everything. It's got great, it sounds great. It's $1,000. That's a lot. I've had it for 5 years. It's never broken. So, I mean, it depends on where you want to go with your program. If you want to build out a fully blown recording rig, that could be something that might interest you. But they also have I mean, it depends on how many channels you want. I think it's important when you're thinking about channels, think about recording a live band. How many channels are you going to need to record a live band? I think the least amount of channels that you can get away with for recording a live band is like 8. So I started, my first audio interface was a Presonus FirePod, and that was like when I was in high school. I got it out when it's 2003. That was my first big audio interface. So they just came out with a new version of the FirePod. This isn't it. It's the Quantum one. It's the Quantum 2626. So this is a great interface. 8 channels of in, really fast interface, and then, you know, this is also your playback device too. You could get a digital mixer like that Presonus digital mixer that I showed, or one of their Studio Live digital ones. Those are also audio interfaces. But you can go crazy with the audio interfaces. But definitely get an audio interface with, I would say, 4 to 8 preamps if you want to track drums for the teacher station. And for student stations, if you are going to get an audio interface, let's say you want them to record podcasts, and you're going to need them to get the audio from, you know, the microphone to whatever they're recording on, get something like this. So this is a 2-channel audio interface by Presonus. What I like about this one is this mixer knob right here. It allows you to change between hearing only the audio playback from the computer and hearing only the inputs. I think that's really important to have that. So what I would do is I would get like this for every station. This is, we're adding, this is like the third level now. First level, playback. Second level, MIDI interfaces. Third level, now we're talking about audio interfaces. And this has a good headphone jack, so they can plug in their nice headphones. And it's bus powered, so that means, if you want to rent some of these out to students, they can just take it home. They don't have to worry about bringing like the power adapter with them. And they can plug in like a guitar right to the front, or a bass, or a microphone. So then the first question is, what's the first microphone I should buy? What microphones do I need for my students? Do I buy this Blue Yeti, blah, blah, blah? Do I need a USB microphone? No, don't get a USB microphone for your students, especially if you have audio interfaces. I would rather you get an audio interface and a decent microphone than a USB microphone, because you can always up your microphone game by buying a better microphone and using the same interface. You can't up the microphone game with a USB microphone. You have to buy a whole new one, and the interface is way more versatile. So my recommendation is, especially if you don't have any microphones, you might have some of these microphones. Get Shure SM58 or a Shure SM57. You don't need a crazy condenser microphone to begin with. You don't want a bunch of crazy condenser microphones in the room. Because if you have more than one student recording at the same time, and if you have if you have a really cool condenser microphone with, a gold sputtered diaphragm, and it's super sensitive, how come it's not focusing on my awesome microphone? I really want it to focus on my awesome. If you have like something that has like a condenser element like this, it's going to sound great if you're in a treated room, nothing else is going on, but it's super sensitive. That's why these Shure SM7Bs are super popular for podcasting and for radio broadcasts, because they're not condenser microphones, they're dynamic microphones. So what that means is they're less sensitive, so they're not going to hear all the other stuff around the room. There is not a big difference between a Shure SM7B and a Shure SM58. There's not a huge difference. They're both dynamic microphones. You can get a whole lot out of this kind of microphone. So what I would do is I would get, if I had my dream station, everyone would have an audio interface. There would be a set of headphones there, a good headphones. You could take your own headphones that you bought. That's awesome, but I have like these $30 headphones for every station. Just lock them up, because they will walk. I had a $100 pair of headphones walk. I know who took them too, but I couldn't prove it. Anyway, and then I would also have I have an interface. I would have the microphone. Now all that can plug into like a Chromebook, and then students can bring their own devices. But what's the next thing you should do? Level 4, computers. I would get a computer for each station. I would get, right now, it is March 19th, 2021, I would get as many Mac Minis as I can get. M1 Mac Minis, very specific. They just released a new processor, their own brand of processor that is it's literally destroying the computer market right now. So I would get M1 Mac Minis, as many as you can. You can get PCs for a little cheaper, not that much cheaper now than this Mac Mini. But the stability that you have with drivers, if you don't want to know what those words are, then don't get a PC. If you get a Mac, the drivers work so much better on Mac. Everything is so much better audio-wise on a Mac. So I would get a Mac. You're going to need to buy a keyboard and a mouse too, but M1 Mac Mini, I would get 16 gigabytes of RAM. You can get it with 8 or 16. I would spring for the extra 16. Otherwise, it's going to use the solid-state hard disk to use some RAM stuff, and then people are finding that if that happens a lot, then the hard disk isn't going to last as long. So get the 16. Get the 16. All right, so after that, what do you do? So you have these dynamic microphones. You can also get 57s. So 57s look like they look similar. You've seen these before. This is like this is the most versatile microphone on the planet. This one right here. So maybe you should get 57s. You can get 57s and then a pop filter. Where's my pop filter? Pop filter, or you can get a little poofy thing to go on top, because this doesn't have Shure SM57 doesn't have a pop for the plosives. So if the kid's talking and you're gonna hear that's gonna happen. It's gonna be horrible. So you can get one of those filters. You can get something, because you can use this. If you had 57s, you can record drums with them. You can record guitars. You can record anything with a 57. So yeah, get 57s or 58s, or 57s and 58s. So after you have that, what are you gonna get? I would get an actual good recording mic, a good condenser mic. What good condenser mic should I get, may you ask? Well, I would get, I've been talking to the owner of this company, Matt McGlynn, and he is a genius. If you want to get in a little bit, if you want to get your hands dirty a little bit, you can go to Micparts.com, and they have mic kits, and they have a mic kit specifically for educators. So it's this, is it this one? No. It's this, the S25, the T25 kit. These are kits specifically for educators. So there's not a lot of parts. There's not a lot of parts to these kits. So if you know someone, or if you have an electronics class, you could buy one of these a semester or something. People use these in their professional recording studios. Like, these things sound insane. So you could buy a kit from Micparts, one of these T25 kits. I highly recommend them, because it's not just like, you could buy a $250 mic, but it's going to sound like a $250 mic. This $250 mic kit sounds like a multiple $1,000 mic. And then anytime you record anything on it, if you have a decent interface and a really good mic, it's going to sound awesome. So that, and then if you don't want to build anything, Roswell Audio is his other company where they have pre-built things. I would get, and I've talked to him, get some mini K47s. They're about $100 more than the other mic, but they're fantastic. And I think that putting that extra $100 is going to be like, it's going to save you EQing time and compressing time and all this extra stuff that you'd have to do if you just got decent mics. So then we get to, like, we're talking about recording, we're talking about mics. You know, you're only as good as the room you're in. So I would get some acoustic insulation, get some sound treatment in your room, or have a room or have a space in your, you know, whatever, like, rooms that you have, your department, that is good for recording. So if it's a small room, you could, like, I've made these, I could put plans somewhere maybe one day. Trying to get it. I have it covering a hole in my wall. This is an absorption panel. So what it is on the back, you can't really see it. This is a 2-foot by 4-foot frame that I made, and there's something called Roxel Safe and Sound. It's a mineral wool insulation material, and it has excellent sound absorbing effects. It's not going to soundproof your room. That's not what it is. It's not soundproofing, it's sound treatment. So what it does is it keeps the sound from bouncing. So you can buy these really cheap. There's ATS Acoustics, AATS Acoustics make panels that are pretty cheap. They're located in Illinois. They make them all there, and their panels are for a 2-foot by 4-foot panel. I'm at ATS Acoustics right now. Like, you can get them pretty cheap. Like, acoustic panel for a 2-foot by 4-foot, $60 about. And you could choose the color and everything. But $60, depending on how many panels you have, depending on your room size. I have a room, my room at school, I have 35 panels. 35 times 60 is too much math to do. So I had a kid for his Eagle Scout project. He made them all. Him and his buddies, they made them all. And it's amazing. My room went from just being atrocious to, like, you could have a jazz band rehearsal in there, and, like, the lead alto player could hear the trombone player, and you could record drums in there, and it's not going to be awful. You could make some panels that are a little larger. Like, if you have a shop class, you can make some panels that are a little larger that you can put in front of drums if you want to just control the drums. We call those gobos. So you want to be able to control some of the sound in your room. So we have playback, level 1. We have, an analog interface to the digital world, would be number 2. We have interface and student microphones. We have the big interface and some studio microphones. And then, like, I would get a drum set. I'd get a drum set. In my room, I'm never, ever going to have a room without a drum set in the middle, ever again. I teach from my drum set all the time. I'm not like I'm a guitar player, but I love teaching at the drum set. And I love having kids play on the drums all the time. I would get, I like Yamaha Stage Custom. They're pretty cheap. Buy more expensive cymbals than the drums. You can make okay sounding drums sound good with new heads. You cannot make okay sounding cymbals sound good at all, ever. No amount of plugins will make bad cymbals sound good. So get a set of drums, get new heads, put it in the room, and then you can get a set of drum mics. I mean, if you have all those 57s, you're good. You could pretty much make a drum with just 57s and 2 overheads if you have those Roswell audio microphones. So, and then I guess it would be like, let's just talk really quick about like the desk situation. So the desk that I have at my school for my personal like station is this. It's a little extra, but I love it. And you might look at the price tag and go, oh my gosh, but it's amazing. So this is a desk by Output. It's called the Platform. What I like about it is this slide out that has knees cut out. So the MIDI keyboard can go underneath. When you pull the MIDI keyboard out, it doesn't hit your legs. Then it gives you still a solid top here where you can here have a top-down camera or something. See, there's a Mac Mini. Where you can have a top-down camera or something, where you can do other tabletop demos. And then there's rack mount things on the side where you can put like a power amp or your interface or whatever. I found it's exceptional. The keyboard stand is an option. It shouldn't be an option. It's not optional. It's amazing. So I would recommend, that's my recommendation for a teacher station. For student stations, I mean, if you're starting out with just the Chromebooks, they can all have just like regular desks. But then you can upgrade. There's nothing wrong with just like lunchroom tables. They don't need anything crazy. If like my station right here, it is a, I don't know, it's a table I got at, it was when, lockdown started. I went to Staples and I got the last desk. It happened to be the most expensive desk, which was kind of a bummer, but I like it. It's solid. It's just a big space, which is great. They don't need like a studio desk. All they really need is like a big table that's super solid. But if you want to get them some sort of station, some sort of table, like let's go back to Sweetwater and let's look at what they got going on for studio desks. You could talk to Wanger. I'm sure they have a lot of expensive things you can get. The used market's good for this kind of stuff. Also, there are desks that you might have at your school that would work really well. But let's look. Okay, so we're going to look together studio and recording. Let's look at, what is it called? Like studio furniture. All right, so let's look at, go with like studio desks. These would be good. These are good. You're probably not going to need rack space, so you don't need something with like rack ears. See how the price of that Output is actually not bad compared to all of these other ones. But I would just pick something, IKEA. Go to IKEA. Have IKEA ship you a bunch of like, they have like these cool tables. I mean, it would be almost cheaper than this, but this is not a bad thing. Workstation desk has a little keyboard tray. You can put the computer and the monitor up here. Plenty enough room to move it. It looks like you can go crazy with this and add extra stuff. But I mean, from there, once students have a place to work, they can hear themselves well. They can record. You can record live stuff in the room. You're starting to build a mic locker, which I would lock, by the way. Then, I mean, it would just be buying more mics, buying headphone distribution amplifiers so students can hear themselves. If you're tracking like more than one student at a time, like everyone can hear the mix. But I think that's a pretty exhaustive list.